Welcome back to the Boys in Motion podcast. It's Andrew here with Brian and Tyler. And today we're recapping the wild weekend that was the 2025 BIM Ride. Whether you were there with us, grinding it out on the saddle, or maybe thinking about joining us next year, this episode is for you.
Oh, baby. If you ever wondered what it's like to spend 2 full days on the bike with a bunch of friends or strangers and a bucket full of sugar, you're about to find out how it was. We're unpacking everything from the headwinds to the overnight indoor camping.
Awesome. Now, what I want to do is just kick it off with day one, right where we started. Let's dive right in. Arrival, basically everybody took the Friday off, which I think is the best way to do this event. You do the Friday and Saturday so that you get that recovery on Sunday, because it's definitely needed. So everybody showed up at my house at about 6:45 a.m. And yeah, the vibes were there. Everybody got in their nice jerseys, and it was amazing to see everybody just chatting, meeting each other, and just getting ready for the ride together.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. The boys were fired up, and some of us with only a few hours of sleep. I know, Brian, you were running around all night the night before, and we had a big group of Ottawa boys coming down from the night before, so we were full-fledged, ready to go.
Yeah, that was actually great. Everybody kind of showed up after like 8:30 or 8ish. John and I had some nice pasta, get the little bit of carb load going. And I was running around all day. I just wasn't eating. So I was just starving at night. So we made a big bowl of pasta. I ended up driving a lot of the food over and dropping Tomic's car the night before. And even once I got back at like 11, it seemed you still weren't there. So yeah, it was definitely a late night for those who stayed at my place.
And even for us Toronto mans, I know the Ottawa mans had the longer drive, but let me tell you, the rush hour traffic getting out of Toronto on Thursday, what normally takes me about an hour and a half to get to Niagara, was about a 4-hour journey between dropping some people off and making my way back. So it was a long night for all, but there was lots of excitement going into that first day of the BIM Ride.
Yeah, so once we had every chain lubed up and we had jerseys on, we were ready to rip. Tyler, you gave a great speech, which was real nice, just kind of like an introduction to the pain train ride, and it kind of gave an overview of like what the expectations were for the day and just some more technical stuff about drafting and being in the peloton while we were going speedy, just so that everybody was safe. But it was great. Once we took a pick, we ripped on the roads. And honestly, I thought we might stay together as a group until we turned off. But right out the gate, the boys were ready to blast in the pain train for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was any consideration of staying together. That wasn't, at least from a chat pack member, you guys were off. There wasn't even a question of, do you guys want to hang on? So maybe that was in your head, but the group did not want to do that.
No, it's true. It was in my head until I saw my power meter start to give me some numbers, and we were ready to rip. And that first part before like our first stop, which was at RPM Bakehouse, that first section was really, really great. There was no elevation. Everybody was kind of just getting used to the vibes of the ride, and the weather seemed to be perfect. It was a little chilly right when we hopped on, but the moment the heart rate was up, felt so comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. It was perfect. And I think too, you orchestrated it nicely, because we obviously took a little bit of a longer road to the first stop to meet up together. So I think the vibes were high there. We were all fired up and kind of, trying to get there before the other group, and also just enjoying the vibes and starting to get to know everybody in the group and see how everyone rides.
Yeah, the vibes were definitely high in the chat pack. We were rolling pretty quick. I think most of the members did not have the knowledge that we were about to climb the escarpment after this stop. So there were some hero pulls going on. I'm not going to name any names, but there were some pullers that were just blasting to the front and just excited for that sticky bun, because let me tell you, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was so nice to show up. And the moment I got there, Sean was just bragging about him arriving before the pain train. So the chat pack was definitely trying to outpace us, and you guys did, which was cool. Coming down that first descent though, it was pretty spooky. We were going 50-ish k an hour, and there was a cutout of the pavement right across the whole road where they were doing some road work, and a few of us at the front of the pack were just bunny hopping it. But I hear at the back of the pack there was a big skid mark on one of the pain train riders, which was freaky.
Yeah, that was. I hung back a little bit, and yeah, it could have went ugly, but yeah, it was a little bit of a oopsie daisies there. Just getting used to the bike handling and knowing when to full send or when to stop up.
Yeah, and then when we hit RPM, it was fantastic. Like that to me is what bike riding is all about. Like especially that we were in two groups, but we all enjoyed the treats and coffee together. Just made like the best first stop ever on that day one. It was just great. And then we went to work in the pain train. Like you said, Andrew, immediately after RPM, you've got to climb the escarpment. And it definitely caught some people off guard in the pain train as well, and kind of got some people on the back foot from kind of the get go after that. And just like recovering and managing after that effort was a challenge for some.
I'm just glad I didn't have that sticky bun Jordan version of a big nasty because yeah, I was going to be completely full after that RPM Bakehouse ripperoni, and yeah, it was a pretty steep climb up that hill right off the bat. But good to get out of the way.
I don't know. There is a picture of you having a little taste of that big nasty. So I think that might have actually helped you up. Just a little taste, but not too much.
That is true. There is some evidence I did take a little taste of that guy.
So just a recap for kind of how the pain train went. We stopped, of course, in Jordan with you guys, and then we went out to the west through Smithville, and then all the way to Cayuga, further than I've ever rode my bike. Then we did a stop in Dunnville, which included lunch. Pretty much everything towards Cayuga was into a slight headwind. And then once we turned and got onto the lake, we had a little bit of a tailwind, which was nice. And we were kind of managing the pace just to make sure that we weren't dropping anybody too heavy. But Tyler, we did blast off for one segment between Cayuga and Dunnville. It was a lot of fun. It was fast, but I think we caught some flack because of that. And in hindsight, it probably wasn't the best decision for both you and I as ride leaders and organizers to kind of drop the weaker riders that were suffering. So I think that's a note definitely for next year of one of us needs to kind of pull the rest of the chain along, and we can't both go blast off for fun.
That is true. We both got the zoomies. I, to my defense, I had no idea that was a segment, and I just said, "Oh, frig, I'm going to try to join the boys and go fast here." And of course, yeah, we did drop half of the pain train and just left them in no man's land for about 25 Ks. But that was a speedy segment, and I can be the first to admit I got dropped again on that segment twice. So that was a pretty fun segment. But yeah, maybe we could have planned that a little better, or even given them a heads up, like, hey, we're going to go for, we'll see you in 25, 30 minutes or whatever, and let up a little bit. But yeah, but definitely lessons learned there. And, or maybe, we get the whole pack just buzzing as a group a little bit faster, but not as a full send.
So now what was this? Was this a city sign segment, or was this something that one of you guys had seen on Strava that was like a segment that you were going for the current record?
So this was a segment on Strava, but pretty quickly after like starting it, I knew it wasn't in the cards because we kind of like immediately dropped some people. And then as we dropped Tyler multiple times, we slowed up and we're like, all right, we'll be inclusive for this freak. So we didn't end up actually like pushing for the full segment, but it was fun to do some really surgy stuff. Like we were getting up to like 45, 50K an hour, even on some flats with a crosswind. So we were pushing, and there were some moments where I think all of us were basically at the limit. So very fun, but I do want to apologize for the people we offended in the pain train when we just blasted off with not enough communication. So that's definitely something that I think we should acknowledge. It was not our best moment in the pain train. But after that, got some lunch and everybody got back home together. So that was good. And I think that was, really nice. One thing a tip, Andrew, for next year potentially. The pain train on day one, we ordered Subway ahead and we got to skip the line because we just got like their catered box and it was perfect. It allowed us to move a little bit quicker and have a faster turnaround at that stop.
Might have to use that tip, but the tip that the chat pack did use was we had Subway coupons. So we were rolling with those Subway coupons. So we didn't order ahead, but we were pinching pennies there in that chat pack.
Frig saving money for those carbs, baby.
Yeah, day one for the chat pack wasn't quite as intense or surgy. From RPM, we also climbed that escarpment, but instead of going towards Cayuga, we were coming back towards through Pelham, through Welland, and then making another stop at the Fenwick Black Sheep. And there was a couple right as we were getting to that stop that there was some sprints that I wasn't expecting that I let blow right past me, and I gave a couple, keep your legs, we're only about halfway in, we're about 45k in, you don't want to be blasting off now, but zoomed right by me and I let them go. I was happy to let them go and stay chatting with the people I was with. But in this first segment, the chat pack did have a few mechanicals. We had a few drop chains and someone that almost lost a pedal off their bike. So the pedal was all loose. It was teetering all over the place. We ended up having to borrow a wrench from Black Sheep. So shout out the gym that is with Black Sheep. I'm not sure the name, but they had a wrench so that we could sort it out because it did not have an Allen keyhole at the back. But the pedals were back on, and then we kept going towards Welland. So the first part of our ride was pretty awesome.
So I've got two questions. First, the sprinters, like who was the winner? Who were some of the competitors in those sprints? And then two, what the heck's going on with a loose pedal? I thought we had good bike mechanics at the start that would inspect that.
So the sprinters were, this Pistol Pete, he is a sprinter. Pistol Pete was there, and then also a newcomer to the sprint, the Polish Pistol. So it was the double pistol battle. Ian, just both of them come flying beside me, and it was before a turn as we went on to Foss. So I have no idea who won because they turned, kept going, and then Quinn started having the pedal issues. So then we stopped and they sprinted right to Black Sheep.
I can't believe Quinn, with the friggin' most expensive bike of either the chat pack and the pain train, had a pedal go askew. What the heck?
So I'm not 100% sure what happened because we had swapped out the clip pedals and put in flat pedals onto the bike. They were all secure, felt good. And when we eventually took off the pedal, there was actually a small thread that seemed to be like almost off. So I think because of the vibrations, it actually like shook out. So I'm not 100% sure how it happened, but it did stay in place for the rest of the day 1 and 2. So we got it sorted.
Yeah, that's not so bad. That's good. So from there, you headed into Welland for your lunch and all that?
Yep. And then we headed into Welland for our lunch. That was wonderful. On our way there on Riverside or on River Road, we did a little bit of a pace line that was nice. We were kind of riding nice and steady, not doing too much rotations, just kind of in a nice road just to kind of give draft to the people behind, but we were moving steady and together, which wasn't necessarily always the case depending on where we were. But that was a pretty speedy section. And then once we got into Welland, Chris departed from us. He had other plans, but it was great that he was able to come out for 60K because his original plan was just to join for the last 40K. So he got an extra 20K in, which was nice. And then our lunch also at Subway. So that was a nice stop.
Yeah, that's sweet. I do wish, I think, well, we can talk about this in the future, but like just planning wise, it would have been nice to have some overlap midday or even later in the day to potentially drop off some riders who were suffering in the pain train or pick up some riders who were finished with their chatter and have some of those swaps. So something to think about. Now, when we were riding Thai, we had some good pace lines going. Some of it was to protect riders, but other times it was to push a little bit. And what I loved is we were doubled up most of the time when we were riding. which was phenomenal. I think we had just enough people with 8 or 9 of us in the train to double up pretty much everywhere we went on both days.
Yeah, that was immaculate. I've never been part of a pace line for that long, over 2 days, and it was, you could tell the efficiency was there. We were working as a group, and like you said, you don't want to, as soon as someone drops off, the train goes away. So I think the key thing there was everybody stay in the group, everybody stay on the wheel, and we did nice swaps. Obviously, some mega pulls from some mega freaks, but I did have to check myself a little bit on that second day to keep some energy because I was not as freaky as some of those guys.
Yeah, so one more thing was more a moment of suffering and chaos that happened in the chat pack. There was an incident with some train tracks. Can you give us an overview of that moment?
Oh yeah, I saw this moment happen firsthand because I was right beside this person, but chaos struck at the Robin Hood factory going into Port Colborne. I was with Mustafa, we were chatting, and I was calling the train tracks because I know BIM has a history with these train tracks, and I personally have flatted on these train tracks, so I know what they're capable of. And I was calling them tracks, slow down, slow down, slow down, and we were all slowing down, but and there is a video of this, so we actually could see exactly what happened. But Mustafa's wheel got caught in the train tracks. His full wheel hits the deck. We all stop, and at first we're not 100% sure what's happening, but then there's quite a bit of blood on his hands. He has a good scrape on his leg. So we all kind of scrambled together to control the bleeding, kind of clean him off as good as possible. There's blood going everywhere, and if anyone knows me in the sight of blood is not great, and I am very lucky there wasn't a woozy runnerman Andy that hit the deck. But that didn't happen. We got it under control, and thankfully we were just 2K away from Port Colborne. So we got it under control, wrapped it with a t-shirt just to control it, and then went and got kind of more full supplies so we could sanitize, put some polysporin, and really wrap it up so that Mustafa was comfortable for the rest of the ride.
Yeah, and it's good he made it home in one piece. Like it seemed his spirits were high despite hitting the floor. But I do think like this is a call out to anybody who wants to tackle these rides is you want to be comfortable and experienced on the road, and like bike handling matters and can make or break your day. So spending a lot of time and just kind of like being in those unique scenarios where that kind of stuff happens to you, you're going to go over tracks, you're going to hit construction stuff. So it's just important that you're like ready for the chaos that comes, and focus on bike handling, because there not only Mustafa, but there were others where you could see like bike handling wasn't the strongest. And I think as you progress in the sport, get more time in the saddle, that's just something that comes with experience. But it's definitely something that you kind of need to build, just like your fitness, is you're comfortable and experience on the bike with all of those unique crossings and scenarios. Because I warned my dad about those tracks as well. Those are definitely notorious for incidents.
Yeah, and I think it's just a good call out for us who are leading these rides, but for anyone listening that is thinking of leading similar group rides. I think having, because we had kind of like the band-aids, but having even just a simple first aid kit with a little bit more complete things as the group ride leader, I think is just something good to have, because you never know what can happen. Our case, we were super close to a pharmacy, so we could go grab things, but that may not always be the case depending where you're riding.
Yes, and the best part of it all was seeing you finish up on that friendship trail. You're close to that first stop, and we were just flying high, ready to finish our first day, very satisfied. And to our surprise, the chat pack was waiting there for us, hanging out. I thought they would already been, having fun in the lake or swimming or eating something, but no, everybody was out there waiting for us and cheering us on.
Yeah, and it was nice. We kind of like had some little time to decompress and chat, but fairly quickly, the three of us, along with, who was it, Tomek and Mustafa, was there anybody else?
I think that's it.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, so the five of us, we all went out for a 3K brick run, which was awesome, just to get a few miles on the feet. And honestly, that shakeout, I think people think we're crackheads for actually doing a run after that. but it's honestly nice. If you went and sat on the couch right after, you'd be seizing up and just too tense. So the run off the bike kind of flushes some of that lactic acid so that day two, you're a little more comfortable on the saddle.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I obviously we didn't push the pace or anything. We just nice chatting pace and just did, 7.5 minutes out, 7.5 minutes back. And again, big shout out to the freak Tomic because he has, from what I gather, this has been one of his biggest workout days. And he's like, "Yep, I'm coming for a run." And same with Mustafa. He was all bruised and battered, bloodied leg and hand, and he's just like, "Yep, I'm coming for a run." It was pretty fun.
That's true. Yeah, that is wild. And big shout out to Tomic. He's a friend from university, and he really only started riding his bike more frequently because of this. He's got a Peloton at home, and he would do a few rides in the winter just to stay fit. But in the run up to the BIM ride, he went from like riding 25, 30K rides to tackling his first century the weekend before and then doing 190K in the pain train and never dropping the wheel. Like he's super disciplined when he's in the pack. And yeah, it was just great to see him have such a successful day. And I hope he got bit by the bug a little bit and we'll see him at the next one, maybe for 2 days this time.
And then we didn't only just do two sports on this first date. We did do a third sport. And I participated in this sport for a brief moment. There was a group of us, a handful, maybe 4 or 5, that went out to Lake Erie and just took a quick dip and just a nice refresher and even dunked the head in. It was very nice. And honestly, I think the water was warmer than the air that night.
Yeah, it was really nice to walk down to the beach from Adam's place. And I will say, Andrew, when I got in the water, I forget who I was standing beside. Maybe it was Tyler, maybe it was Tomic, but I was like, I bet you any money Andrew's gonna chicken out from the full dip because there's been other times where we've gone out to that lake and you've just stayed cozy on shore, but not this day, which was awesome to see. It was cool to all get under the water fully.
Yeah, I had to do it. The issue is that everyone is so quick to always get in. And I'm not a fan of the slow walk-in of Lake Erie, but it was the day. The spirits were high. I knew my legs weren't going to collapse because I was in the chat pack, so the spirits and legs were still fully intact. So it was time to take the dip.
So you're not only a land animal, is what you're telling me. You do dabble in a little bit of water, which is nice. You might get the bug.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely a land animal that will occasionally go into water just for a quick little slurp and then run back right to land.
So while we were taking a dip, Mark was nice enough to kind of coordinate the lasagna cook time. And that's what I want to point to next was the food. We had an awesome dinner. We had lasagna, we had salad going. We had really great bread from the Crumb Clinic that you got, Andrew. And I think overall that was like such a successful meal. Everybody loved the food. It tasted super good. But I will say I bought way too much overall food. Like the fridge and freezer here is just overflowing right now with stuff. So that is definitely a learning for me. But I think that first night meal was delicious and exactly what we needed.
Big agree. When I saw that Costco cart picture, I'm like, holy frig, we're feeding an army. It's going to be real nice. I was super excited to just munch on all that food.
I think one big thing that it seems like we have to take away from this, especially as we're doing things locally where a lot of people are based, accounting for numbers of who will be there or not be there is a very hard thing to do. If you're doing this thing somewhere else where everyone's traveling, you kind of know your hard numbers, where for this event it's a little tricky to pin that down.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I attributed it to as well, was we had like perfect numbers for that meal right after because I knew exactly how many people would be there. But for kind of the following breakfast and midnight snacks, all of that, I didn't expect so many people to either like go to their own place or even like drop out and not do day two. And that was kind of a curveball, but overall, I'm glad we had enough and not too little.
Can't complain with too many carbs. That's a good problem to have, especially when you're gearing up for a second day. And that second day has more climbing than the first day. So I know there's a couple members of the chat pack that were pretty spooked for that second day, and even a couple people that decided not to start the second day. But should we jump into that second day? Is there anything else you guys want to chat about on that first night?
One other thing that was pretty awesome was that presentation we got, the sneak peek on the Insider, how to build your own carbon bike. That was super insightful by Calvin, and he just walked us through his logistics and how he ordered every single piece, kind of from the frame color right down to the group set, and explained to us his version of a nice light carbon bike. And of course, obviously, it performed very well.
Yeah, it was super interesting to hear his experience of buying like all Chinese AliExpress parts. And I think like I've heard some rumblings of texts I've got from people who are interested in exploring that path, let's say, for their next upgrade. So you might see more of those, whatever it was, KMT frames in the pack next year. Who knows?
Oh, 100%. I might even have my eye on one. He sent me all the parts, and he's like, let me know if you have any questions. Here, go buy it. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right, let's turn to day two, like you were saying, Andrew. I think the number one thing that started that day was headwind and rain, right? It spooked a lot of people, and we felt it in the pain train, and I'm sure you felt it in the chat pack as well.
Oh, we absolutely felt it in the chat pack. The issue with the chat pack is that we weren't quite as many people deep as the pain train to create and going at quite the paces to be able to give that relief once you got back into the in the peloton. So let me tell you, I forget who I was saying to this during the ride, but me running the BIM Ultra along that same parkway, if you would have asked me, I would have told you that I did that quicker than we biked down the parkway that day, because between the headwind, the cold, the rain, time stood still on that parkway that day. Now,
Yeah,
I feel like, go ahead.
No. All I wanted to say was I think the experience in that first hour and a half for the pain train was very different from the chat packs experience because we went out blasting. I wasn't sure how we'd feel getting back on the bike for day two right in the morning. Legs are sore and saddles are sore as well. But from the get-go, after like the first kilometer and we got off the Friendship Trail, we had some fresh wheels in there. Jansen, who actually biked from Welland to join us in the morning in Fort Erie, and we had Jacob who joined us. And yeah, we were running many men deep, and we blasted that first hour and a half or so.
Yeah, that gave us I think that gave us some, I don't want to say false confidence because we did it, but that gave us the confidence and maybe the fresh legs we needed to just blast through that hour and a half. I don't know about you, but I also felt pretty in shambles, like Andrew's describing. I was just waiting for that stretch to be over. Where's Chippewa? Where's Chippewa? Is it after this turn? Is it after this turn? But I'm glad I stayed in there.
For sure. And for me, that was definitely the hardest part of the day was that first section because the wind was ripping straight forward. And also we got hit with a wall of rain and it was cold. But one thing that was hot was the pace, especially when we passed the chat pack with about 10 to 15K from the first cafe we were meeting at. And oh boy, the pain train was excited when we saw you guys ahead. And we took a little bit off, recuperated, and then pressed the gas pedal down a little bit as we passed. That was a really, really cool moment just to see the two teams kind of passing each other there.
Yeah, that was, let me tell you, that was a moment. Not quite as cool being in the chat pack, but up until that point, we were trying to do our best. So just a big shout out to Ian, who had done his first century the day before, and that is almost more cycling than he did the year prior, the whole year, but decided to come out and start even though the crazy conditions. So we were just trying to shield him as best as possible, get him along because he was already hurting, and you could tell that he wasn't sure how far he was going to make it. But when that pain train came flying by, there was two members of the chat pack that started getting the zoomies, and zipped right off. And then I was there with Quinn, just us, trying to just shield Ian the best as possible to try to get him to that first coffee stop, because that was my single goal, was get him there in one piece where he's not walking his bike, because he was a hurting unit, but he made it. So huge shout out.
That's a big effort, especially on a second day. Like you said, already his biggest ride ever the day before. I can't imagine just sucking wind on that headwind. How you guys were doing was crazy. We did get a little bit of a sneak peek on how dark of a pain you guys were in there on that stretch, but I'm glad you guys all made it back to the cafe, and nice welcome to the cafe, that's for sure.
Yeah, so Catalina's Cafe in Chippewa was our first stop. It was about 46K for the pain train and about 30 some for the chat pack. And I was the first person to walk into that cafe. And it was a little bit smaller than I thought it'd be, but it was a warm welcome. And oh my goodness, it smelled so good when I first walked in. It was just like fresh baked goods, sugar, and a little bit of espresso scent in the air, and everything was delicious. The owner was such a great host, and we've gotten a few messages since that. And so I just want to thank Catalina's. It was awesome. And I think it's also worth reading out what she sent us. Do you guys agree?
100%. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
Okay, so I was texting her because they actually opened up early on the Saturday, and we took some pictures afterwards. We got put up on their socials and all of that. But this is what she sent me after. Hello, riders. We hope all of you, the amazing members of the cycling team, return safely and in good health after your ride. It was truly an honor, a joy, and a memorable moment for us to welcome you. Despite the challenging weather, your visit brought warmth and energy to our day. We are deeply grateful for your support of small local businesses like ours. Every smile, kind word, and moment shared meant a great deal to us. Wishing you continued health, happiness, and many more safe and joyful rides ahead. May your cycling group remain strong, connected, and full of spirit. We look forward to seeing you again, hopefully under sunnier skies next time. With heartfelt thanks, Catalina's Bakery and Cafe. What a gem.
Beauty. That is such a crazy message. I love it.
Love it. Yeah, so good. I feel like I could speak for everyone at this, is that after such a hard morning was a great turning point. Just brought everyone's mood up, and we were just riding a high after. But there's so many good moments in that cafe, but I feel like I need to highlight one specific one. That one person in the pain train's mood significantly increased after Catalina's, and that is Mark. That we were all just sitting there having our coffees. He walks in the door, and then Catalina goes, "There, our handsome just walked in," or something like that. And you should have seen Mark's face just light up. It was amazing.
Maybe that's why he pulled the rest of the day. He was just flying high.
100%. That's what I said. Be careful of the sprinter. His quads just inflated after that compliment.
For sure. It definitely added 15 watts to his FTP for the rest of the day. It was so hilarious. But yes, they were so welcoming, Catalina and her family there. And I think it's just like one of those gems of a bakery and coffee house. Certainly something I'm going to look towards as a stop for any of those Parkway rides in the future. And I would encourage anybody else to stop there in Chippewa. Definitely better than the Tim Hortons on the other side.
100%. That was just like, it felt like, it was a little home experience. She was so like asking everybody how everything was and wanted to be so helpful to everybody. So it was a really cool experience. And like Andrew said, it just kind of changed the mood because we had a heinous hour and a half, and it was like, why are we doing this for a second day in this terrible weather? But then it was just like all worth it.
Now, I must say, I think it's really good that the mood got turned upside down, because both the chat pack and the pain train had a bunch of climbs upcoming. And that was kind of what was slotted for the rest of the day, was just an afternoon of climbing up and down that escarpment and quite a few miles. So I know I was looking at your map and all those climbs in the pain train. So can you guys just kind of run me through which climbs and any highlights or special moments during that section?
So I can go first, which was the climb up in the first climb up the escarpment. After doing the full parkway into Niagara on the Lake, we returned via Thorold. And right before lunch, you go up right along the locks there. And we kind of, I think everybody in the group pretty much put out a full effort to get up that hill. And I was champion of that climb, which wasn't true for many of the other punchy climbs through North Pelham where Calvin and Mark were sprinting off. But on that specific climb, I juiced it up and I took a look at everybody in the pain train afterwards. I was over a minute faster than Calvin, who I think was second up, and then I think it was Mark, or in that order or reversed. But it was fast and aggressive coming up that hill, and it was definitely my favorite climb of the day.
Yeah, that caught me off guard. You guys just rocket shitted up there and just absolutely killed that climb. I was trying to stick with Mark. He kind of took the path, I took the road, and we were kind of neck and neck. I still did put out a pretty good effort, but yeah, you were absolutely gone. And even when we reached that corner, you were still sucking wind, like you were still recovering off of that a good minute after the climb. So that was a good way to get the afternoon started, right before lunch. I'm glad we did that before lunch and not after. But yeah, that kind of set the tone for the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah, and just to speak to the kind of the rest of the ride for the pain train, after that, after lunch, we hit some of the hills in North Pelham. We were definitely kind of suffering through North Pelham, stopping at the top of some hills just to let some of the riders catch up. And shout out to Jansen, who was an absolute trooper. He was 40 kilometers ahead of us, ended up doing over 210K on the day. So a magnificent effort. And I don't think he'd ever done so much. And he ended up sticking it on the bike for every single hill. And even after our last stop, we were contemplating calling an audible and not going up and down the escarpment one more time. But right when we approached that descent, Mark said, "Let's rip it." So we all went down together and did that one last climb of the escarpment and ended up just over 800 meters of climbing for the day. And then the last, what was it, 20K or so hit, and I took the front and just brought that train home. I knew it was kind of the time where it was just like, let's just hurt, but let's hurt together and get home in one go. And so I just sat on the front and took the wind for the rest of the ride in after that last climb.
Those were probably some of my favorite moments. One, I obviously love the descent. So the descent coming back up was a little less fun, but still beautiful little short hills in there that I've never been to. You said you took the front of the train, didn't say a word, and just ate the wind for the last good 45 to an hour. It was crazy. I tried staying on your back wheel, and that was a struggle. So I could imagine how many watts you were pushing on the front. And I was just going full lizard mode. I was just staring right at your back wheel, trying not to lose that wheel, because that was the only way we were going to get home.
Yeah, that was the true moment where the pain train forged together as one. And I think every single person, whether you were in the back on the last wheel or at the front right beside me, or literally me, was kind of at the limit, juicing the legs after so many kilometers over the last 2 days, that it was kind of the perfect recap going into the full stop at the barbecue and just being able to socialize after. That was the true spot where we kind of all went through the difficult part together.
That sounds like a great day. It just brings me back to last year and just being in the full pain train at the limit, just saying please slow down. And PTSD of being in that pain train. I do miss it, but hearing all these stories, I'm just like, why couldn't I have done both? We gotta do different weekends, I think.
Oh, we should do that. That would be nice. But just a funny story reminding me of basically what you were doing last year, Andrew, is I was kind of sticking near the back with Jansen, trying to revive him, bring him back to the pack near the end there of the day 2, and he's like, "You guys are crazy. Why aren't we slowing down here? What is going on here?" Like just hanging on for dear life. And I'm like, just eat more just have more carbs. He's like, carbs is not going to do anything. I'm already all carved up. This is just crazy. So he was like exactly what you were doing last year, just like hanging on for dear life. But oh man, he made it. And yeah, that's what it reminded me of.
I forget who I was talking to, someone that was in the pain train this year, and they're like, yeah, at the stop signs, it's just stop, then accelerate. And I was like, okay, finally someone understands why my legs were falling off. Because at the stop sign, I'm just not nearly as quick as at the acceleration as everyone else. And then I'm just 190 BPM to try to catch up. So it's a real struggle if you're not in the train.
And that's the thing, like even for that last section, I was really trying to control it when we were going off a stop sign. And even sometimes that's not enough. Because if you miss a pedal and you're behind by 5 seconds, that quickly becomes 10 and 15. So definitely something to keep in mind is work on those little surges or stay near the front where it's not quite as surgy. Barbecue after was awesome. We had the girls in what are we calling them? Girls in motion? Is it girls in motion?
The girls in motion.
Yeah, the girls
The
in
GIM.
motion.
Yeah,
The GIM.
GIM.
Yeah, the GIM. So some of the GIM squad was out and they kind of had the house ready to go. The GIM squad and Adam, shout out Adam, who brought all our stuff over back from his place on the second day. And shout out to my mom who brought it all over on the first day. That was a huge help and would not have run as smoothly without them. But very nice to just enjoy some good food, have a nice beer, and chat about all the cool experiences.
That's honestly my favorite part is just the chat after, the relaxation, and just like the feeling of, we just accomplished something really cool all together. We can share some experience while having our personal experiences and our personal fights with some of the days, right? So some moments were hard for others and some were easy, and it was just a fun time all around.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just on that day 2 for the chat pack, I just have to give out a couple huge shout outs for kind of different reasons for each member, starting with John, who left the pain train after that Catalina stop. And he was just so nice and consistent, brought the pace of the chat pack up just a little bit, but was just riding the front and just kind of pulling everyone along. So just Papa John was just doing his part and he was pulling, but for him it was coasting because he wasn't in that pain train anymore. And then
I remember seeing John when we got to Subway, and I'd never seen a happier man. He was so happy. He was just like, boys, we're totally recovered, because he was in quite a bit of pain that like first day and even on that first section of the second day. So I think that he
Brought him
had
back to life.
blissful moments in the chat pack.
Yeah, he had a great time. We had great chats. He was just such a good addition to that chat pack and just brought everyone along. But someone else who was a very strong, very, very strong member of the chat pack was Alicia, Calvin's wife, who just pulling all day long, gap in the chat pack. There was I did a segment with Alicia at the end where we just kind of pulled in front because John had navigation in the back and we just went nice and steady. But just every climb right to the top first, was doing sprints on the rolling hills. So I think that Alicia needs to do at least a portion in the pain trade next time, because I think she has it in her.
Yeah, I like that. And I think another goal for next year is to increase that female count in the both packs, because Alicia was the solo across both days. I know we had Chloe who was lined up but couldn't make it on the Saturday. And I had also had some chats with Carly, but I saw she was at a bike shop getting a new TT bike rather than joining us in the pain train. But overall, that's one goal that I think we should set for next year, is to just balance out the gender disparity a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just one last shout out, and this is, I think, just sums up what the chat pack is all about so well, and that is to Quinn, who didn't do any cycling training, goes on a city bike, is an active person but doesn't do much dedicated training or any training, borrowed a bike, had never ridden it, but made being in the chat pack just look easy. He was in control, on pace, and was just having a great time. So I think if you do active things, even if it's not dedicated to cycling, we'd love to have you in the chat pack, and just for an awesome 2 days of fun adventure, eating, coffee, and carbs.
I love it. So we're coming up to time here. I want to ask one more question to kind of the three of us. We can roundtable it, which is, what was your favorite riding moment of the weekend?
Ooh, favorite riding moment. That's tough on the whim like that. I'm just trying to think of any time we were downwind with the wind at our back. I'm just trying to think of a couple moments on the second day, or even at the end of the first day, where we're just in the perfect peloton 2x2, wind at our back, looking down at the speedometer, and we're going, about 38, 39, and just feeling great with the boys. And I think that's the key to the 2 day ride. There was just feeling great for the majority of the time, not the whole time, but just that speed and being in a group together.
I think for me, and starting and being the leader of the chat pack, I think just all the nice conversations and chat that I was able to have in the pain train. Although, I mean, we have some expert chatters in the pain train as well that can do it, and I don't know how. Definitely Tyler is, I would say, the expert media and chatter in that pain cave. But it was nice to just be able to have a more relaxed ride where you're able to spend time chatting, learning things about people, and just kind of like having more of an adventure ride as opposed to like a really all out where you're pushing your limits. So I did really enjoy that, and it made going on some of those sections with the nice rolling hills in kind of more the country, just you feel the wind hitting you. It just felt nice. You didn't have many problems in the world except for chatting just on these rolling hills. So I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, and one moment that really stuck out to me was at the end of day two, when I was taking that wind at the front and kind of setting that difficult pace that really, I think, forged a bond between everybody who was in that pain train at the end, because we were all on death's door together, was a funny moment between Mark and I when we were at the front and Tyler comes up, hands off the bars. I'm pretty at the limit. I was trying to push like a decent amount of wattage, and I knew that I was kind of committed to getting the whole way home. And Tyler comes up. I almost thought you were whistling, and he has his phone in the air. He's looking around, and I just look over at Mark, and I'm like, how the f is he doing that? I just couldn't believe my eyes. And I got to give you a shout out, Ty. You're an MVP for all the media that you took. I didn't take my phone out, I think, not even once to grab a picture or a video. And you really held the ball there. And I think some of that good video is going to make for a beautiful short and just kind of, be a capsule to all of the great memories that we made. But that was hilarious.
That I have to admit, I was saving the legs a good like 15-20 minutes in the draft, because I knew I wanted to get one last like amazing shot of all the boys just pushing hard and me just coming by like a car. And I think I captured that. And like you said, I just like to capture the moment and make sure that the memories are shared between not just us, but a lot of people that are following us.
Yeah, I love it. I know I got some slack after the first day that, oh, Tyler's out there taking so much media. You're in the chat pack. What are you doing? And I was trying, but as a not experienced media man, even when you're going 20, 25, if you're not used to it, pulling out your phone, recording it, I kept doing it, and it's just all bumpy and just scuffed footage. But I did get some as well, and I'll have to look if any of the GoPro footage that I got is any good too.
And either way, we did get some good footage out of the chat pack from Mustafa's 360. So once that's released, I think you'll be relieved of the media duties.
I really hope there's audio on those, because there must be some funny chats on those audio clips. I was thinking about that.
Yeah, that'd be nice. The belligerent chat, real nice.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I think overall the year was a success. I'm looking forward to BIM Ride, or to the 2026 BIM Ride. There's definitely things that I want to talk about in terms of changes. Maybe that can happen through another podcast and we can kind of do that transparently. But overall, I thought this year was a success. I'm glad we got the BIM jerseys. I thought that was a huge advancement of the ride, and having 2 packs seemed to be good as well. So overall, I think we can give ourselves a little pat on the back for the work that we did in setting this all up.
I think lots of chatter of people that were either super happy with how it was run, and also chatter of more people that want to join, or kind of ideas that people have of kind of like improvements or kind of how to take it to the next level. So I'm excited to see kind of after this ride that was a bit more organized of where we go next in our 2026 edition of that BIM Ride. But yeah, that's a wrap on our BIM Ride 2025 recap. So just a massive thanks to everyone who came out, who helped, who brought things, as Brian had mentioned, all the people that made the day possible. Especially also to those that pushed themselves, whether you were in the chat pack, that pain train, who cracked the jokes and just made the day a little bit easier for everyone.
Exactly. And if you're listening and had a little bit of FOMO and didn't join us, don't worry. We're doing this all again next year. And like Brian mentioned, new and improved. We'll have some improvements. We'll take some suggestions, and we're going to be part of a great ride next year as well. Again, don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Check out boysinmotion.com and listen to us on your favorite podcast.
Now remember, we're not medical professionals. We're just three boys who love bikes, Andrew sometimes, and plenty of carbs. And we love bonding through all the sweat and effort, but do consult with an expert before trying anything dumb on two wheels.
So with that, stay fast, stay fun, and keep moving forward, and we'll see you out there.